Welcome to your deep dive.
Okay.
Today we're going deep on Genesis chapter 3,
All right.
the story of Adam and Eve.
Yeah.
I think most people probably know the basics.
They do.
It's forbidden fruit, Garden of Eden.
Right.
But we're going to go a little deeper today.
Yeah.
We're going to really look into that serpent strategy, those
Okay.
specific consequences.
Yeah.
And we're even going to look at how this ancient story,
Right.
connects to your life today.
Thousands of years later, and we're still dealing with the same temptations,
Right.
the same desires,
Yeah.
and same tendency to,
Yeah.
I guess you could say, mess things up.
It all starts with that serpent, though.
Right.
He doesn't come out like guns blazing,
Right.
calling God a liar.
Yeah.
Instead, he's subtle,
Hmm.
planting these seeds of doubt.
Yeah.
What do you make of that approach?
Well, it's brilliant, really.
Okay.
When you think about how he phrases that first question to Eve. Yeah, hath God said, you shall not eat of every tree of the garden.
He's not even denying God's command there.
He's not. He's introducing this, uncertainty.
Yeah.
Making her question, what she thought she knew.
Yeah, it's almost like, are you sure you heard God right?
Exactly.
So sneaky.
Yeah.
And then he minimizes the consequences.
Yeah.
God said, thou shalt surely die.
Right.
But the serpent counters with, ye shall not surely die.
Right.
He really downplays the danger.
Yeah.
And then he offers up this tempting alternative.
Uh-huh.
Your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil.
Right.
That promise of becoming like gods. I mean,
Right.
that plays on our deepest desires.
Absolutely.
That ambition to be in control.
Yeah.
To have all the knowledge.
Right.
I mean, it's a temptation that still resonates with us today.
Yeah. You think about how often we chase power, status, or knowledge,
Mm-hmm.
even if it means compromising our values.
Right.
We want to be the ones calling the shots,
Yeah.
deciding what's right and wrong.
And she falls for it.
She does.
She sees that fruit,
Yeah.
which is described as good for food and pleasant to the eyes.
Right.
She takes a bite,
Takes a bite.
gives some to Adam.
Yeah.
And he eats it, too.
He does.
I always wondered about this.
Yeah.
Adam wasn't tricked.
No.
He made a choice.
He did.
Right.
Adam had free will, just like Eve.
Okay.
He wasn't deceived or coerced.
Right.
He willingly disobeyed God's command.
So what does that say about our choices?
Right.
I mean, are we really in control of our actions?
Yeah.
Or are we more easily influenced than we'd like to admit?
Then we think.
And the immediate aftermath is interesting, too.
Right.
Adam and Eve realize they're naked.
Yeah.
And they feel shame.
Mm.
They try to cover themselves up with fig leaves. It's almost like,
It's this image of them hiding from God, right?
Yeah.
Trying to cover up their mistake.
yeah.
It's something we can all relate to.
Yeah,
mess up.
totally.
Our first instinct is often to hide,
Yeah,
to pretend it didn't happen,
yes.
or to blame somebody else.
And that's exactly what happens next.
It is.
God calls out, where art thou?
Yeah.
Seems like such a simple question,
Mhm.
but what's the deeper meaning there?
Well, it goes beyond physical location.
Okay.
God's really asking about their spiritual state.
Mm.
He's saying, where are you in relation to me? Why are you hiding?
That's interesting.
And their responses are classic.
Right.
Adam blames Eve.
Uh-huh.
Eve blames the serpent. It's
Yeah.
the original blame game.
So even back then,
Yeah.
people were trying to shift responsibility,
Right.
avoid owning up to their choices.
And let's be honest.
Yeah,
We do the same thing today.
we do.
We blame our parents, our bosses, the government, even the traffic
Right.
for our own shortcomings.
It's easier than facing the consequences.
Exactly.
And the consequences in this story are pretty intense.
They are.
Let's start with that serpent.
Uh.
He's cursed to crawl on his belly and eat dust.
Right.
What's the significance there?
It symbolizes degradation,
Okay.
humiliation,
Mm-hmm.
but it's not just about the serpent's physical state.
Right.
It's really about the spiritual reality of rebelling against God.
Okay.
Crawling on the ground
Right.
represents being brought low,
Yeah.
being stripped of power and dignity,
Wow.
and eating dust.
Yeah.
Well, dust is often associated with death and decay.
Uh-huh.
It's a picture of utter defeat.
I never thought about it that way.
Right.
So the punishment goes beyond just the physical. It's
Yeah.
a deeper spiritual truth.
And within that curse,
Okay.
there's this glimmer of hope,
Okay.
a prophecy hidden within those harsh words.
Okay.
It shall bruise thy head, and thou shalt bruise his heel.
Hmm.
So this foreshadows a future victory,
Okay.
a time when the serpent's power will be crushed.
So even in the midst of this judgment,
Right.
there's a hint of redemption,
Yes.
a promise of something better
Yeah.
to come. Okay.
The consequences for Eve are a bit more complex.
Okay.
She's told that childbirth will be more painful.
Right.
Her desire will be for her husband,
Yeah.
and he will rule over her.
There's a lot to unpack there.
It is.
It's really sparked centuries of debate
right.
about gender roles in the relationship
Okay.
between men and women.
Right.
What's interesting is that these consequences
Yeah.
aren't just about Eve personally.
Yeah.
They reflect a broader disruption
Mm.
in the created order,
Yeah.
a ripple effect of sin
Right.
that extends beyond individuals. So it's not just about Eve's individual punishment,
Right.
but the impact of sin
Mm.
on relationships,
Yeah.
on society as a whole.
On society.
Wow.
And that's something that's still relevant today.
Okay.
I mean, think about the ongoing discussions about gender equality,
Right.
power dynamics,
Mm.
the challenges of relationships.
Yeah.
These themes are so deeply rooted in the human experience,
Mhm.
and this story offers a powerful lens to examine them.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
I'm already seeing this story in a whole new light.
It's amazing how much depth there is to uncover.
Okay.
And we haven't even gotten to Adam's punishment yet.
Okay. So let's talk about Adam.
Right.
He's told that the ground is cursed,
Mm-hmm.
work will be laborious,
Right.
and ultimately
Yeah,
he will die.
he will.
What's interesting here is that the curse isn't on Adam personally,
Right.
but on the world because of his sin.
Exactly.
That's a subtle but important distinction.
It is.
So Adam's sin affects the entire world.
It does.
Not just him.
Not just him.
I never realized that.
Right.
Cool.
It's a profound concept.
Mm-hmm.
His disobedience brought about a fundamental change
Okay.
in the way the world operates.
Okay.
Work becomes toil.
Yeah.
Creation becomes subject to decay,
Uh-huh.
and death enters the picture.
Wow.
It's a reminder that our choices have consequences
Right.
that extend far beyond ourselves.
It's like a domino effect.
It is.
One action can set off this whole chain of events
Yeah.
impacting everything.
Exactly.
And that brings us to a crucial question.
Right.
If Adam hadn't eaten the fruit,
Okay.
if he had resisted the temptation,
Yeah.
would the world be a different place today?
It's a heavy question.
It is.
It makes you think about the power of choice
Yeah.
and how one decision
Right.
can change the course of history.
But even amidst these harsh consequences,
Yeah.
there's this glimmer of hope.
Right.
God doesn't abandon Adam and Eve.
He doesn't?
He provides them with clothing
Yeah.
made from animal skins.
Yeah.
What do you make of that?
Well, it's an act of compassion.
Yeah.
Even though they disobeyed,
Mm-hmm.
God still cares for them.
And it's significant because it's the first mention of animal sacrifice
It is.
in the Bible.
Right, yeah.
So it foreshadows the idea
Uh-huh.
that a sacrifice is needed to cover sin,
Right.
a theme that unfolds throughout the rest of Scripture. That's really interesting. Yeah.
So even in this moment of judgment,
Mm-hmm.
there's this hint of grace,
Yeah.
a promise of redemption.
Right.
But before we get ahead of ourselves,
Right.
there's one more consequence we need to discuss.
Okay.
Expulsion from the Garden of Eden,
Ah, yes, the ultimate punishment.
being banished from paradise.
But what if we looked at it
Okay.
from a different perspective?
Right. What if?
What if this expulsion was also an act of protection?
Protection?
Yeah. How so?
Well, think about it.
Okay.
Adam and Eve disobeyed God.
Mm-hmm.
They chose their own way,
Right.
staying in the garden
Okay.
with access to the tree of life.
Yeah.
Might have seemed ideal on the surface, but what would it have meant for them in the long run?
So you're saying that remaining in paradise
Right.
without dealing with the consequences of their actions
Yeah,
might have actually been harmful.
exactly.
Wow.
It's like a parent setting boundaries for a child.
Okay.
Sometimes
Yeah.
tough love is necessary for
Mhm.
growth and ultimately
Mm-hmm.
for our own good.
That's a powerful analogy.
Yeah,
So the expulsion wasn't just about punishment.
right.
It was about giving Adam and Eve an opportunity to learn and grow
Yeah,
outside of Eden.
it was about pushing them out of their comfort zone
Okay.
and forcing them to confront the reality of their choices.
This is all so insightful.
Yeah,
I'm already seeing this familiar story
Yeah.
in a whole new light.
it's not just a fairy tale.
Right.
It's a profound reflection on human nature,
Right.
choice,
Yep.
and the consequences
Ah.
of our actions.
Yeah.
And it raises some important questions
Okay.
for us today.
Okay.
If Adam and Eve had stayed in that garden
Right.
with access to the tree of life,
Yeah.
how would that have changed the course of history?
That's a lot to ponder.
It is.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of this story.
Right.
It challenges us to think deeply
Mm,
to wrestle with complex questions,
right.
and to discover new insights
Yeah.
into the human experience.
And I have a feeling we're just getting started.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
There's so much more to explore in this ancient text.
Right.
But for now,
Okay.
we'll leave you with that thought-provoking question.
Okay.
What if Adam and Eve had stayed in the Garden of Eden?
Mm-hmm.
How would that have changed everything?
It's something to really chew on,
It is.
and we'd love to hear your thoughts.
Yeah?
Feel free to share your reflections on social media or just sit with this question and see where it takes you.
We'll be back soon to dive into more fascinating topics with you.
Okay.
But until then,
Yeah.
keep thinking,
Mm-hmm.
keep questioning,
Right.
and keep exploring.
All right. We've talked about the serpent's, cunning strategy,
Right.
the choices Adam and Eve made,
Yeah.
the far-reaching consequences. But amidst all that heaviness, there's also this thread of compassion
Absolutely.
running through the story.
Even while handing down consequences,
Okay.
God shows care for Adam and Eve. Providing clothing, for instance.
Yeah.
It's not just practical.
Right.
It speaks to their vulnerability,
Mm-hmm.
their shame,
Yeah.
and God's desire to cover them.
Yeah, it's almost like he's acknowledging their attempt with the fig leaves,
Right.
but offering something more lasting,
Yeah.
more substantial.
Exactly.
And that choice of material animal skins,
Right.
that's significant too.
It is.
It introduces the concept of sacrifice,
Right.
which becomes a central theme throughout the rest of the Bible.
Mhm.
So right from the start,
Yep.
even as humans mess things up,
Yeah.
there's this hint of a solution, a
Uh-huh.
way to make things right.
It sets the stage for this idea
Yeah.
that sin has a cost,
Mm-hmm.
but that cost can be borne.
Wow.
It's a pretty profound concept
It is.
that unfolds over millennia
Yeah.
of biblical narrative.
And that expulsion from Eden,
Oh, right.
we talked about it as protection.
Yeah.
But it also feels like a separation,
Mhm.
a severing of that close relationship they had with God.
It's both, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, they're removed from the immediate presence of God,
Right.
from that ease and abundance of the garden.
Yeah.
But this separation also sets them on a journey,
Okay.
a path of growth and discovery
Mm-hmm.
that wouldn't have even been possible
Okay.
if they'd just stayed put.
It's like they needed to leave the nest,
Yeah.
so to speak,
Yeah.
to truly understand what it meant to be in relationship with God.
And to understand themselves,
Yeah.
their own strengths and
Right.
weaknesses. Remember in the garden,
Right.
they were innocent,
Yeah.
unaware of good and evil.
Totally.
The fall,
Right.
as tragic as it was,
Yeah.
brought about a kind of awakening,
Okay.
a knowledge
Mm-hmm.
that would ultimately lead to greater depth and meaning.
So the expulsion becomes a catalyst for growth,
It does.
even though it's rooted in disobedience.
Yeah.
It's almost paradoxical.
It is.
Yeah.
That's the beauty of this story.
Okay.
It's full of these paradoxes,
Right.
these layers of meaning
Yeah.
that challenge us to think beyond the surface.
Mm-hmm.
It's not some simplistic tale of good versus evil,
Right.
but a complex exploration of human nature,
Yeah.
divine grace,
Okay.
and the ongoing struggle to find our way back to wholeness.
And that question we left listeners with
Right.
about Adam and Eve staying in Eden,
Hmm.
it really highlights this tension
It does.
between innocence and experience,
Yeah.
between this idealized paradise
Mm-hmm.
and the messy reality of life outside the garden.
Yeah, it forces us to confront this idea
Yeah.
that maybe paradise isn't about a place,
Okay.
but a state of being.
Right.
Maybe it's not about avoiding pain or struggle,
Right.
but about how we navigate those challenges,
Yeah.
how we grow and learn from our mistakes.
So even though Adam and Eve were expelled,
Right.
even though they faced hardships
Mhm.
and consequences,
Yeah,
they also gained something invaluable.
they did.
Knowledge,
Right.
self-awareness, and ultimately the potential for a deeper,
Right.
more mature relationship with God.
And that's the key takeaway, isn't it?
Yeah.
The fall wasn't the end of the story.
Right.
It was the beginning
Okay.
of a new chapter.
Yeah.
A chapter filled with both challenges and opportunities
Mm-hmm.
for growth.
Right.
A chapter that continues to unfold within each of us today.
I love how you frame that. So often we focus on the negative aspects of the fall.
Right.
But you're right.
Yeah.
It's also about this potential for
Yeah.
transformation,
Mm.
for something even greater
Right,
than
yeah.
what was lost.
And that brings us back to you, the listener.
Okay.
What resonates with you most in this story?
Yeah.
Where do you see parallels
Mhm.
in your own life,
Right.
your own struggles and triumphs?
Are there moments when you felt tempted like Eve?
Right.
or made choices you regret like Adam?
Mm-hmm.
Have you experienced the consequences of those choices?
Yeah.
And perhaps most importantly, have you also encountered that thread of grace,
Yeah.
that offer of redemption,
Mm-hmm.
even amidst the messiness of it all?
These are questions worth pondering.
They are.
Questions that can lead to a deeper understanding of yourself,
Mhm.
your relationship with the world,
Right.
and ultimately your relationship with the divine.
And remember,
Yeah.
even though this deep dive is coming to a close,
Right.
the journey of exploration doesn't end here.
It doesn't.
We encourage you to keep reading.
Keep thinking. Keep asking questions.
And most importantly,
Okay.
keep connecting with that source material, with
Right.
those ancient stories that continue to speak to us across the centuries,
Yeah.
offering wisdom and insights
Right.
that can guide us on our own paths
Yeah.
toward wholeness.
Wow. It's amazing how
Oh, right.
one chapter of the Bible
Yeah.
can spark so much discussion.
Yeah.
We've covered
I've had
the fall, temptation, consequences,
Right.
redemption.
It's a lot to process.
It's a lot.
Yeah.
But, that's the power of
Yeah.
these ancient stories.
Right.
They really tap into these like universal themes that resonate
Right.
across cultures and time periods.
And they invite us to engage with them on multiple levels.
They do, like intellectual, emotional, spiritual.
Yeah, and that's what I love about these deep dives.
Right.
They're not just about gaining information,
Right.
but about sparking curiosity.
Yeah.
Encouraging you to think for yourself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're not here to give you all the answers,
Right.
but to equip you with the tools and insights
Okay.
to ask the right question.
To connect those insights to your own life.
Right.
Yeah.
Because ultimately that's what makes these stories meaningful. Their ability to illuminate our own experiences,
Right.
our struggles,
Yeah.
our triumphs.
So as we wrap up this deep dive into Genesis chapter 3.
Yeah. We want to leave you with a final thought.
Okay.
We've been talking about the fall,
Right.
expulsion from Eden, the consequences of disobedience.
Right.
But what if we shifted our perspective for a moment?
Okay, I'm intrigued.
Okay.
What kind of perspective shift are we talking about?
What if,
Yeah.
instead of viewing the fall as like a purely negative event,
Okay.
we saw it as a necessary step in human evolution?
Okay.
A step that, while painful,
Yeah.
ultimately led to
Yeah.
greater understanding, growth,
Right.
and even a deeper relationship with God.
It's almost like saying that the fall wasn't a failure,
Right.
but a necessary part of the human journey.
Think about it.
Okay.
In the garden,
Mm-hmm.
Adam and Eve were innocent,
Right.
unaware of good and evil.
Right.
They lived in a state of childlike dependence
Right. Right.
on God,
Yeah.
but after the fall, they gained knowledge,
Okay.
self-awareness,
Right.
the capacity for moral choice.
It's like they moved from childhood to adulthood, from a state of naivete
Right.
to a state of responsibility.
Precisely.
And with that responsibility came the potential for growth.
Yes, for making their own choices,
Yeah.
forging their own path.
Right.
Yes, they faced hardships,
Right.
but they also experienced love,
Yeah.
joy,
Yeah.
creativity, and the satisfaction of overcoming challenges.
So in a way, the fall was a catalyst for becoming fully human.
I think so.
Wow.
It allowed humanity to develop its full potential,
Right.
even if it meant experiencing pain and suffering
Yeah.
along the way.
That's a profound insight.
Yeah.
It really changes the whole narrative of the story.
It does.
And it opens up these new possibilities for how we understand our own lives.
It does.
Yeah.
What challenges have you faced
Yeah.
that, while difficult,
Mm-hmm.
have ultimately led to growth and transformation?
Okay.
What choices have you made that, even though they might have had negative consequences,
Right.
have shaped you into the person you are today?
Those are powerful questions.
They are.
It makes you realize that even our mistakes, our failures,
Yeah.
can be opportunities for learning and growth.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And it reminds us
Yeah.
that we're not defined by our past,
Right.
but by the choices we make
Right.
in the present moment.
Yeah.
We have the power to learn from our experiences,
Right.
to grow,
Yeah.
to become the best versions
Yeah.
of ourselves.
And that's a message of hope
It is.
that we can all take away from this ancient story.
Absolutely.
So as you go about your day,
Yeah.
we encourage you
Yeah.
to reflect on these ideas. Consider the challenges you've faced, the
Yeah.
choices you've made,
Right.
and the lessons you've learned. And remember, even in the midst of difficulty,
Yeah.
there's always the potential
Right.
for growth,
Mhm.
transformation,
Yeah.
and a deeper connection with the divine. This has been an incredible deep dive.
It has.
I feel like I've gained a whole new understanding of Genesis chapter 3. Yeah.
And even more importantly, a new perspective on my own life.
And that's what we hope for with every deep dive, to spark your curiosity,
Right.
challenge your assumptions,
Yeah.
and leave you with more questions than answers.
So until our next adventure together,
Yeah.
keep thinking
Keep exploring.
and keep diving deep into the mysteries of the world around you.
We'll be here,
Yeah.
ready to guide you on your journey of discovery.